Now we're going to take a look at what's making news across Africa. We turn to our Rise News contributor, Frankie Edozien. Hey, Frankie.
Good evening, Debbie.
Hey, good to see you.
How are you?
A lot going on, so let's jump right in. First of all, of course, it hasn't been in the headlines as much recently, but Ebola is still a very real and important story. So give us an update.
Okay, so what's happening really right now in Sierra Leone is that we're seeing a trend where doctors are dying. And you know, people call Ebola the caregiver's disease, but not so much in terms of the other countries where there were doctors and other people were brought in, and many more people died. In Sierra Leone, over the weekend, the 10th doctor died, and there is another doctor, the 11th doctor, who have caught Ebola, who is clinging to life. So what people are trying to do over there is trying to see if they can have different medical facilities just for doctors. And one of the people there is saying that the doctors are dying because they spend so much time treating others, and that by the time they actually take care of their own symptoms, it's getting to be too late. The British government, thankfully, is setting up a hospital just for doctors. So that's one thing that's happening. That's a really, really good thing. Meanwhile, over in Liberia, where things seem to be stabilizing and going back to normal, there are going to be elections next week. And what had happened was that President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf had banned political rallies last week. Now her son, who's running for Senate, is suing her, saying that he'd like to be able to campaign. Last week, people thought it was a bit cynical that she banned political rallies because a lot of people were going out for her son's opponent in the senatorial race, who's the soccer player named George Weah. So now he's trying to distance himself a little bit from his mother and saying, I do want political rallies because things should be back to normal. Yes, we have Ebola, but we should be able to campaign and vote. And then over in the Gambia does not have Ebola, but President Yahya Jammeh gave $500,000 to the 3 countries affected by Ebola, and he didn't get a proper thank you from Guinea, so he's been crying foul.
He's upset because he didn't get the thank you.
He didn't get a proper thank you, and he does not understand why Guinea, like the other 2 countries, could not have sent a thank you note or said something. This diplomatic kerfuffle is having people scratching their heads because, you know, the Gambia is, you know, they locked their borders. They didn't let anyone in at the height of the Ebola scare earlier this summer, and they did give money like everybody else, but to expect, like, you know, poor
they're
little Guinea.
They're a little busy.
Yes, they're a little busy to sort of like leave everything and send you a nice thank you note has just got people scratching their heads over the weekend.
Very, very interested. I love that, how you characterize that, a political kerfluffle. That's great. All right, let's move on, talk about another country. We've been talking a lot about Robert Mugabe in Zimbabwe, and he's sort of been trying to seemingly consolidate his power. Now it looks like he might pass it on to his wife.
Yes, so his wife over the weekend was appointed to a very, very powerful position in the ZANU-PF, which is the ruling political party. She is now the head of the women's wing, and many people are saying that this is one step closer to him anointing her as his successor. There was another woman, Joyce Mujuru, who was his vice president, who had been thought to be the successor, but Grace Mugabe, for many, many, many years, she had been known as Gucci Grace because all she did was shop, and now she's trying to enter into politics, and so she has sort of engineered this situation where Joyce Mujuru has been pushed out, has lost influence, and she accused her of trying to kill her husband. Now, Robert Mugabe has appointed her head of the women's wing, and people believe that she's going to be his anointed successor. So she's going to go from Gucci Grace to First Lady Grace to possibly being a candidate for the presidency of Zimbabwe.
What's the public opinion about that?
Well, it's hard to say. People kind of like very dismissive of her because she got a PhD in 3 weeks or something like that, and now she's the head of the women's wing. But it's, you know, Robert Mugabe is somebody that people are loath to criticize within the borders.
Indeed. Very, very interesting. Keep your eye on that for us.
Sure.
There could be intrigue there. Okay, so let's move on to another. There is a rising middle class in sub-Saharan Africa, and that's good news.
That is good news across several countries, but what it has meant is that there are more people who are taking out insurance. Now, in many countries, you have to take out insurance for your vehicle. That's normal, so there's no news there. But people are now taking out life insurance and property insurance, and they're seeing double-digit profits in all of these insurance companies in at least 4 sub-Saharan African countries. So what this has meant is that countries, financial companies, insurance companies from the UK and South Africa and other parts of Europe have, in the last 6 months, swarmed into these countries and bought up these insurance companies because they are the only ones where it's almost a sure thing. Double-digit profits. Often, one company in Kenya had up to 50%. The Nigerian company is doing extremely well because more people are feeling a little bit more secure in their incomes, and so they are taking out life insurance for their families, but they're also taking out insurance on property, other property that they have that they don't necessarily need insurance for, like automobiles. So, you know, we could invest.
I was going to say,
some insurance
you might want to get in on the ground floor here.
Yeah.
But that's good for the people, though, that they have that kind of confidence confidence.
Yeah, what is shown is that people are earning more, and they're willing to say, even though we're earning more, we have to take care of our families. And when people actually spend money on insurance, that means they're thinking about some sort of security, because insurance is not something that you have to do it. You do it because you want to.
And you're optimistic about the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And these people have not had a lot of persuasion to do so. They have just had rising incomes, and then they've bought insurance.
So let's move on and talk about our last story. And this is about a groom who was accused of murder, of arranging the murder of his basically bride on their honeymoon.
Yes.
And he has been exonerated.
Well, yes, so to speak.
So to speak? Okay, tell us the story.
So, I mean, it's been 4 years now, but what happened this morning was that the judge said the prosecution had not done enough of a good job to warrant prosecuting Sharon Dawani. What that would have meant was that if he had taken the stand, the only way they could get a conviction was if he implicated himself. The judge said that the state witnesses, the state being the Cape Town and the police there, their 3 witnesses had told so many lies she could not see which one was the truth and which one wasn't. Sharon Dawani and his wife got married in 2010. They are actually ethnically Indian, but they live in the UK and they're British citizens, and they went to South Africa for a honeymoon, and she ended up dead. And it looks like, from what we're piecing together, that he had been bisexual, or he is bisexual, and the state was trying to use that as a motive for killing his wife because he didn't know how to get out of a marriage that his parents and his family wanted. Now, he, on the other hand, is saying that his wife was kidnapped and he had nothing to do with it, and she ended up dead. And so he is going to be let go because the state could not prove that he actually was the one who put a hit on his wife.
Is it possible for the prosecutors to bring charges again, gather new evidence?
If they're able to get new evidence, that would be possible. But right now they have 3 people in jail for killing this woman. One of them who fired the shot actually died of a brain tumor in jail. But all 3 of them, their stories are different. So what we're piecing together, it seemed as if this was sort of like a ransom hijacking gone wrong. Nobody expected that she would be killed, and she ended up getting killed. And then they potentially decided to frame the husband, but we don't even know if the husband was in on it from the beginning. It seemed as if the murder part was an accident. The rest of it was trying to extort money from a British couple.
Yeah, and it is a true tragedy in that regard. All right. Thank you so much, Frankie. Good to
Thank
see
you,
you.
Debbie.
We'll see you next week.
All righty.